Okay, great.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Server Error 405. I am here with just one of the greatest people that I possibly could ever come into in my life. And I say this with a big heart because it's been what
He
10,
says this
11.
about everybody, so don't believe him.
You're right. You know, I'm trying to impress the cougar, but I'm a cougar too, so it's kind of like no impression.
I think there's a different name for that, but yeah, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, sure. So it's been over 10 years since we even talked, and I think this is phenomenal to get back and catch up. She is the star of Weather Channel's World's Funniest Weather. She's a head writer for Funny You Say That, and she's also the phenomenal host of Don't Call Me Ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, Jodi Miller.
Hi guys, yay!
So how you been?
The show is Funny You Should Ask, but nobody ever really remembers it. But yeah, that's okay. It's Funny You Should Ask, Funny You Should Tell, Funny You Should whatever. It's a funny show is what it is.
It really is. I was doing some research today and I was watching some videos and I had fun going through the rabbit hole. And
yeah, it's fun. Well, it's easy to go through a rabbit hole whenever you're looking for anything online. So
yeah. And I was watching some podcasts that you were on recently and I'll talk about that in a minute, but a lot of the stuff, because I remember you did Comics Unleashed too, and which was also Byron Allen, right?
Entertainment Studios, yeah.
Right. And he just seems like a great guy. And I really feel like he's someone who doesn't really get talked about a lot because I'm 46, 47. And I remember just watching a lot of his shows at like 2 in the morning. And he's got like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, a lot of his shows are on at 2 in the morning.
Right. And it's like he's had a great career. And no one really ever talks about him, but he knew everyone in show business, knows everyone.
Well, I mean, people talk about him now. I mean, he's doing a lot more as far as like, media mogul type of stuff as far as, he bought the Weather Channel. He's buying some other television stations and, selling some of his own like networks and streaming services to other platforms like the Grio. He's got Local Now, which is a streaming service. So he's like, he's got his hands in a whole bunch of things. It's kind of those people that actually fly under the radar, I think.
Yeah.
They're the ones. He's done that a lot. Yeah. Say that again.
He's been under the radar for quite some time. And I think for me, even he's had a great career.
Yes, totally. I mean, he was I think the youngest comic to ever be on the Tonight Show at, I think it's 16 or 17.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what he started, and then Real People. And yeah, he's done a lot of amazing things, and he's launched, helped to launch a lot of people's career. And I love working at Entertainment Studios. Both of those shows, The World's Funniest Weather and Funny You Should Ask, are under that as well. And we're, on hiatus, an extended hiatus due to COVID with Funny You Should Ask, but we will be back with new episodes. And The World's Funniest Weather's back. And yeah, I mean, he's got his hands in a lot of things. And he's on the show too, which is great, because I think people do forget that, he started as a comic. So yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's those people, it's those people that fly under the radar that you gotta like keep your eye open for.
Yeah, exactly. And like, when I'm mentioning about comics, who's your top 3 all-time favorite comics?
Everybody asks me that question and I don't have I really don't. I think it's because I'm a comic. There's a lot of people that I admire and respect and look up to, the Bill Burrs, Ellen DeGeneres. I mean, the people that I just think are really brilliant writers and performers. There's so many people that a lot of people don't even, I've never even heard of that I'm, I think that I respect as a peer, you know what I mean? As a comic. So, I mean, it's such a, funny question that people ask me that. I'm not somebody that grew up actually listening to a lot of comedy. My dad listened to some comedy, Stephen Wright, Bill Cosby, he grew up, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, but I never aspired to be a comic. So I never really it never dawned, I never really paid attention, to be honest with you. I didn't see my first live comedy show until I was in my 20s, right before I started doing comedies, when I actually first saw my first live comedy show. So I really had I didn't grow up, and a lot of people do. A lot of people have those heroes and they meet their heroes and they're, they've always wanted to be a comic, and they, that just wasn't my path. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Cause you did musical theater. Right, you did that for.
I started in musical theater.
So when was the last time you actually sang in public?
Sang in public, probably just drunk karaoke at last year's Christmas party when we were allowed to have parties.
What was the song?
I don't even remember. I think it was Hava, Nikila Hava, because it was the Christmas time. So it was all the Jews. We all got up and started singing.
And just
I miss singing. I think when I came up doing musical theater, it was right before Rent had hit Broadway, and it was a lot of like, jazz hands, and it was very show tuney. And while I really enjoyed it, and I toured with a group in college, we went all over the world with the musical theater group. I thought that was going to be my path, but it wasn't until I was in New York and I was hungover and I booked my first like television spot on a soap opera that I was like, oh, I want to do this. Because when you're in musical theater, you have to stay in like, you just keep your voice in tip top shape. I don't think I ever aspired to be in a band either. I really loved singing, and I was known for singing throughout all of high school and all of college.
No, I want to ask you to sing, but I don't think you're going to sing.
No, I'm probably not going to sing.
I know it's not going to happen. So
maybe I'll sing later.
Okay, we'll come to that at the very end. We'll see how it goes. But
okay, we'll see.
Who would you say like your voice would sound like? If we don't get a chance to hear you sing, who would you?
I guess I have a little bit of a raspy voice. What's interesting is that I didn't. I used to have a really like mezzo soprano voice until I got into college and probably started drinking whiskey. And it definitely changed my voice for sure. Right. I remember just assuming that I was always a soprano, and finally my the instructor, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. I'm blanking on exactly what he did. He
obviously made an impact on your career.
I know. He did, but he also, he was sort of like the organizer of this, musical group. He just came up to me one day and he was like, you're picking pieces that are just too high for you. Because that's what my voice used to, I used to be able to sing a lot higher octaves, and at that point he was like, just go down a few octaves, and I did, and I was like, oh, all right, I can sing that. Right. But it's interesting because my brother's a musician, he's a drummer, and I never even thought about like joining a band or doing like that, which probably would have been better for me, to be honest with you. But I really loved acting so much, and that ultimately was, I took that, my dad saw me in something, when I was around 18 singing. Right. It was Bye Bye Birdie, and
that's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. I was always the quirky best friend. I always was never the lead. I was always the best friend, the supporting. And my dad came up to me afterwards and just was like, I think you're a really beautiful singer, but I think you're an even better actor. And I did. I got all of my I would steal the show, not for my singing, but for my acting. You know what I mean? But by being funny and being quirky on stage. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll do that then, because it's so easy to just be an actor, as we all know.
Yeah, and you were on Guiding Light. You had one line, right?
No. It was Another World.
Another World.
No longer, it's no longer on the air. It used to be Another World was like right after Days of Our Lives, right, on NBC. So yes, I had a couple lines on that, which is how I got my SAG card. They're called, it's a under 5, which is 5 lines or less. Right. So I did a few episodes of that. And then I was on like Law and Order, just as like a featured extra. And then I was in an episode of Sopranos, and I wasn't, Sopranos hadn't even aired yet. It was back in the day, we would like walk around the city with other actors and drop off our headshots and resumes just to casting offices. Okay. And I went with a couple friends, and we went to this one casting office, and we just dropped it off they would just have a bin right outside their door. And we dropped it off, and this guy picked up the picture and ran after us and asked me, he said, are you SAG-AFTRA? And at that time I wasn't. I became SAG-AFTRA after the soap stuff, but not until I moved out to California. But at that time I wasn't. But he was like, it's okay. We need an extra. We need extras for this club scene for this new show we're doing for HBO. Right. And I was like, okay. So it was like at 1 a.m. It was really late. It was a late shoot. It was in the dead of summer, but we had to dress like it was the dead of winter. So it was really pretty brutal. We were in a club scene, and then we had to do an outside club scene, like we were waiting to get in. And I remembered at that time, I mean, again, the show hadn't even aired yet. So they hired a Martin Scorsese lookalike to be walking in the club. So you really only see him really quickly, and then the bouncers and everybody's trying to get in. And I pushed myself in front of that crowd because that's what we were supposed to be doing. And I think I screamed something like, "Can I get in?" I screamed something like, "Can I get in?" or "Let me in." And I knew that if they liked that take, that it's for continuity purposes, I would have to keep doing that line. And that's exactly what happened. They pushed me up front. I never got like upgraded or anything.
Right.
But I had to say it over and over again, and I had to jump in the same position over and over again.
How long did that take?
You
like
know,
how many takes? Like how often?
I don't even know. A lot of takes, definitely a lot of takes. But I remember one of the other extras passed out from heat exhaustion because we were dressed in wool coats with scarves and hats. And it was, New York summer, dead of summer, humidity. It's like still 90 degrees at night. And we're all bundled up. And she passed out because of heat exhaustion. So they were like, "Okay, we're done for the night."
Wow.
But anyway, yeah. And then, lo and behold, I had no idea that Sopranos would be the Sopranos. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, you were on the Sopranos." I was like, barely.
Yeah.
But I'll take the credit.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is I was looking through some things just to kind of research because, we haven't been in contact for a minute. So I wanted to check on everything. And there was a website when I, was doing my research. It said Jodi Miller's net worth. So I said,
no, I always see that when it comes up. I'm
right.
Like,
so I read the,
well, what's my net worth?
Well, it doesn't say it doesn't get into that because
I would love to know.
It says there's also no information available about her net worth and earnings, but definitely she earns well from different works.
Oh, wow.
So they stand behind you. So other funny
things.
There's other funny things. It says she said she was born. It says the year. I don't know if you tell people your age.
I know. I don't know why they put that year. I can't get rid of it. It doesn't matter. It's either like, it doesn't matter.
But here's a fun fact. She celebrates her birthday on every 8th day of June.
That's a lie. Who wrote that?
The same people who know your net worth, but they don't know your net worth.
Are you sure hold on a second. Is it Jodi Miller, comedian?
This is you. Let me read down some of these other ones.
Because just so you know, there's Jodi Miller, Jodi Miller bodybuilder.
Yes.
And I think her birthday is June 8th.
That's a possibility because I don't know when your birthday is. So
it's May 8th. My birthday is May 8th.
So here's something else they said about you.
Okay.
She got famous after her performance on America's Got Talent in 2014. That's when you got famous.
I mean, that's when they think I don't think I actually don't think I'm famous, but if that's when they think I get famous, okay.
What was the other one that was funny on here? This was just me trying to do research, and I just found this list. I thought it was hilarious. She was born and raised in New Jersey, United States. She holds an American nationality, but the detail about her ethnic background is not available.
Well, that's because they haven't got my 23andMe report.
So anyway, there was like a list, a few things on there. It's pretty much, just obvious stuff. But I did have some New Jersey questions that I wanted to ask. Let me look through my little list here, and I need to know about a few things.
Okay.
One, why was Wawa the greatest convenience store ever?
My God, you know what? I don't know if I think it was, I don't know if it was the first one that was open 24 hours a day. I don't know why. I've never actually heard that it was called the greatest convenience store ever. I loved Wawa. The truth is that when I was growing up, it was Quick Check. It wasn't Wawa. Okay. Wawa was in Pennsylvania. And the first time I'd ever gone to a Wawa was in college because there was a Wawa right across the street from our university. And the reason, if there's any reason that I would consider it the greatest, it was because it was open 24 hours a day and you could go in there drunk, all fucked up, and eat a whole bunch of food for like a very little money.
All right. So speaking of food, good segue.
Wait a second. No, hold on a second. Is there a reason? Do people consider it the greatest convenience store?
According to onlyinyourstate.com, a lot of people in New Jersey, they think it's
They love it.
They love it.
It's funny because I haven't lived in Jersey for 22 years, which I was thinking about it the other day. And again, like there wasn't any Wawas in my neighborhood when I was growing up. And I still don't know. I'm sure there are, Wawa again was in Pennsylvania. It could have been a bigger South Jersey thing because Quick Check was Quick Check and 7-Eleven was like our go-tos. You know what I mean?
Right,
And then again, Wawa was when I went to college. I was like, what's this place?
Yeah, it was more like a 90s staple. But speaking of food, is a pork roll really the best regional breakfast meal ever?
Not for me. No. Gross. I don't like it, but it's very big on the East Coast. Taylor ham is very big on the East Coast. You never get that out here ever. And also they have scrapple is really huge in Pennsylvania, which is
What is that?
it's exactly what you think it would be. Scrapple is the scraps of all like the pork, all of the animals. Just they throw it all together, they mash it up, and it's like scrapple and hash browns. I mean, people love it. I don't know if I've ever tried it. I'm also not really a big ham fan. I like pork, but I don't like ham. So yeah.
Scrapple. Okay. What about disco fries?
What are disco fries again? Is that just like chili cheese fries or?
It sounded like it's fries topped with cheese and gravy.
Yeah. We just call it gravy cheese fries. They are probably the best thing ever. But I mean, that's not like, is that an East Coast thing? I think that's an everywhere thing, isn't it?
According to onlyinYourState.com.
Oh, wow. I mean, maybe they call it disco fries, but yeah, I mean, fries with gravy and cheese, you can't beat it.
I mean, if a girl invited me over to her house for disco fries, that just has to be code word for pussy, right?
I don't think so. No, I think she just wants to eat very unhealthily.
How about disco?
It's not even a word, unhealthily. I don't know if I'd want to have sex with anybody after eating a big basket of gravy cheese fries.
No,
I feel like that's not going to sit well.
No, and it'll be a lot of mess at the end there.
Yes.
So let me see here. What was the other thing? This is what I wanted to really talk to you about.
Okay.
Because I have seen a ghost in my life.
Oh, okay. When?
Well, this is a long time ago, but you put on your Insta story. I don't know if it was a bit or if you're serious. There was maybe a ghost in your house.
I definitely have several spirits in my house. One of them's my mom, so I don't even know if you call her like a ghost. It's just my mom. And then I think I have another. I haven't seen a ghost in my house, but my cat definitely reacts very strongly to one area of my house. He's very obsessed with and like definitely looks like he's looking at something. And that's different than when he's like looking at like my mom, which is usually in a different room by her ashes. But I did have the other like 2 weeks ago outside of my backyard, that's what I posted. I posted a video on my story of my solar lights that were flashing and staying on and getting brighter than solar lights can get. I mean, solar lights aren't even plugged in. You can't be like, oh, it's an it's a bulb, but it can't even get that light. It's a different color. And it was literally like almost doing Morse code. So I had recorded it and I was freaking out and I was on the phone with my friend and she was like, go out there and look. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, no, put me on FaceTime and we'll like be with you. I was like, no, absolutely not. I'll do it in the morning. And I went in the morning and I've been in this house a year and a half and this is the outside like pool house. And apparently there is a floodlight that is tucked up there. I'd never seen it before, but the switch for that light is on the wall itself outside. It's never been turned on. I've never known that was even there. So there's nothing going on. So everyone's like, well, it's an electrical surge. And I'm like, okay, you don't understand. It's not like my outdoor front light or a light that's on and it gets really bright and then it bursts. That to me is an electrical surge. Now I'm sure this is an electrical something, but did it just happen on its own, or was it a ghost? And there's no way I don't think that it was a ghost, because I've never seen it happen before. It hasn't happened since. And it was very specific. It lasted for 15 minutes and it would get really bright and then it would start flashing, but it would flash in different rhythms. It wasn't just like 1, 2. It'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. It was almost like Morse code. Like I definitely had the video and I want to like look up to see like what it was. And then it get really bright and then it went off. And then it got really bright and stayed on, and then it started flashing again, and then it went off, and it literally was like someone was doing this with the light switch. And obviously there was no one doing that. I thought, when it first happened, I was like, I thought somebody was in my backyard with a flashlight. That's how bright it was.
Yeah.
There was no way there's no way I wouldn't have seen it any other night, especially because I've been on the couch for the last fucking year. Exactly. So I'm like, you literally would see it from any window in my house. I would see it. So it was very, very weird. Tell me about your ghost though.
Well, my ghost was probably about 20 years ago. I was seeing this girl and I was living in like Riverside, California. And I would commute from there to Anaheim, mostly every day to see her. Sometimes we'd stay up, drink, smoke some pot, have a good time, and she'd pass out earlier. So I'd stay up and watch TV before I'd try to sober up a little bit and make that drive back home or stay the night. So this time I came with a buddy, and we're sitting there watching, of all movies, Rudy, and just chilling. No one else in the house but us.
Right.
My girlfriend at the time, and like a mom or uncle. I don't remember who it was. So we're sitting there. And all of a sudden, I get like a feel someone's behind me.
Right.
And I look behind me, and there's like a younger guy standing in the doorway, kind of like leaned up.
Right.
And I go, hey. And he goes, throws his head up.
Right.
And I'm watching Rudy. I just thought maybe he snuck in through the back, maybe it's some family member. He was so casual. So I look back, he's gone. Because I was just going to ask him you want a beer or just whatever.
Right.
And he's gone. So the next morning, I bring this up like, hey, who's that? Who else lives here? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, there's like a young dude just standing here. She's like, you really saw him? I'm like, saw who? At that point, I think she's fucking with me at this point.
Right.
And she said, who did you see? And I described it again and described to her mom. And I guess the people who owned the house previously, their teenage son got killed.
Oh no.
And that's who I saw.
Right.
But
crazy.
They're not the type of people who are just gonna fuck with me or anything like that.
No, I mean
at all. And make it up like moms.
Wait, have they ever seen him?
Yeah, that's who yeah.
So they've seen him before, so they weren't like
no.
So how often would he be there?
I was more freaked out that I actually saw a ghost, and I didn't really get into the, questions and answers. I was more like, wow, hey, I gotta go, and I may not come here that much. So just letting you know. And we actually did break up shortly after that.
Well, I mean, he doesn't sound like he was malevolent or anything. He just,
like Rudy.
Yeah, kind of.
He's a Rudy fan.
I mean, there's a great series on Netflix called Surviving Death, and just came out, and it's all about near-death experiences and paranormal activity and spirits and all of that stuff, and it's really, really good. And if he's just there hanging out, it's just because it's a place that he's used to being, and a lot of like theories behind it, and there's also like a lot of like really well-known and respected scientists and philosophers, back in the 17th century, wrote about it. There's like books and books and books and books, from the 1800s about the paranormal. There's the Paranormal Research Society that started then by like, really well-renowned, scholars. And it's pretty fascinating. Like I said, there's like this one spirit here that scared the shit out of my cat twice. So much so that my cat wouldn't even let me touch him, and he was hissing and staring at something, and it was really freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I knew it really wasn't my mom. And I think out loud, I just said, it was scary a little bit for me too, but I said, whoever's here can stay here as long as you don't scare me or my cat.
Yeah.
If you're cool, then cool. Just
Right.
relax, enjoy the scenery, look out the window, whatever you want to do.
Right.
You're welcome here.
Right.
Please just do not scare my cat or myself. And that was the last time my cat is definitely still stands by the closet door, or like all of a sudden will just start staring at the closet door, but he doesn't get scared anymore. And he doesn't really seem to affect him the way it did those 2 times. I mean, it was pretty scary those 2 times to see my cat acting that way.
And it always fascinates me when people mention ghosts, especially after me having that experience. Like I always keep an open mind for everything, really. UFOs and I mean, we had dinosaurs that, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, can you imagine?
Right.
So with everything going on with COVID, it really took it really took like a mental exhaustion for me to even like want to do a podcast, because I actually had this, idea to come back a long time ago.
Right.
I mean, I was podcasting before everybody had a podcast.
Right.
That's why the show's called Look, It's a Podcast. Like, we all have one. But how are you getting through COVID? Just overall. I know, just watching from past podcasts, you've shared some experiences, but just overall in a nutshell, because didn't you do a show recently in front of like cars? I know some comedians are doing that with their outdoors.
Yeah, I've done a lot of the drive-in shows. There's one that's out here. It's every other week at the Magic Castle in the parking lot there. I've done that. I've done 2 others in San Diego. And then I did a few live shows, and I actually have one small one coming up in February. It's definitely difficult. It's difficult being in California because, we're shut down the most, and all other states are open to some degree, and comedy clubs are open in other states. I mean, limited capacity, and some people are like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to clubs. And other people, I know a lot of other people that are, because they need to live and eat.
Yeah.
And it's really, I miss it a lot. I miss, performing, and, the drive-in shows are phenomenal. Asphalt Comedy, it's so great. And Tammy Jo is so great too. She literally built the stage. She had people build the stage in the parking lot. And
right.
It's really great. It's, nothing's going to take the place of actually performing in front of, 400, 500 people at the Comedy Store on a Friday, Saturday night. It's just not for a while. And it's very difficult to not have, places that you've considered your home, all of the clubs to do your spots at, and, getting up, much fewer, like much less than I used to. Even if I'm doing a Zoom show, it's still not the same, but it's great. You know what I mean? I'll do it, of course, because it's like, connecting with people. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but it's like, what are you gonna do? I mean, we're all sort of going through like the cycle of grief over and over and over again. It's like anger, denial, sadness, acceptance, anger, denial, sadness, acceptance. Like, we literally just keep going over like all of those, bargaining. I'll just do this. I promise I'll stay in my house, but just let me go. Like, it's just,
right.
It's literally the stages of grief. That's what we're going through. And it's definitely hard.
Now, when you're doing the outdoor shows, the first thing I think of is honking hecklers. Like, you're
not allowed to honk at, nobody's going to heckle. People are so happy to be there, and they're also paying a lot of money. So they're not going to they're definitely not going to pay. They're not going to heckle. The one at the Magic Castle, there's no honking allowed because it's a residential area.
Okay.
The one in San Diego, Drive Up Comedy, which is also great, is in a park. So they do allow honking. I don't mind the honking, although my friends came with me to that one in San Diego, and they said the honking's distracting when you're in your car. So you can like listen to the comic, both shows, any drive-in show, you can listen to the comic on your car radio.
Right.
So, but Tammy Jo's Magic Asphalt Comedy, they give you little clickers, hand clickers, neon clickers that are little hands or clappers. And so they're all out the window clapping. You can hear laughter. You can definitely hear laughter because the windows are open, but they're clapping. So it's like little clappers. So that's how they're laughing. And the same in the Drive Up Comedy show in San Diego, they're honking, but it's not obnoxious. You can hear them honking as if it's laughter, and then you wait for them to die down, and then you just, you do your next joke. So it's sort of a learning curve of sort of waiting. Your timing is a little bit different than it would be for like a live show.
And it's so everything is so new now because we're trying to people say this is the new normal, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I think we'll slowly get back to where we need to be.
I think
But
we
it's like,
will. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's learning new things and adjusting. And the one thing I do miss, just going back to just your comedy, which is always great. I miss those Sonic commercials that used to be.
Thanks.
Would you ever do more like YouTube stuff? Because I was more into YouTube when I was podcasting, and I feel like because I used to do my YouTube stuff too.
Right.
I knew everyone that was on there, and I catch all kinds of stuff. And I would always see you. You would not even intentionally look for you, but I would see
Right.
the Sonic commercial or anything else that you're doing. Are you think would there
I
be a
mean, right
possibility of
now
doing?
it's hard to like film anything with people in that capacity. But I mean, my podcasts are all on YouTube. So
Yes,
yes,
I was
and
watching. I was
yeah, and
watching today. They're
I've
funny.
got like previous like stand-up when shows. Of course I like, would love to utilize YouTube more and do more stuff, but until I'm able to like properly shoot anything, with other people, it's just going to be even the podcast. Like I have my podcast, like a studio ready to go pretty much. It's just getting people over here that, feel comfortable sitting 6 feet apart doing it. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that was always the intention before, the world shut down, is I was literally transforming my pool house into the podcast room, and then it kind of shut down and it just became, Zoom for a while. So
Okay.
yep.
Well, I'm hoping for a quick shutdown because I love seeing new content from you. So I want to ask one last question
Yeah, of course.
because I know you got to get going. Because I like I said, I was watching a couple podcasts that you were on over the last 6 months. Pretty funny. And you mentioned adopting.
I'm in the process of adopting.
So how is that process going from, a few months ago to now? Like how
No
still kind of
changes. I don't think people realize how difficult the adoption process is and how long it actually takes. They say it's usually an average of 18 months from when you start. And it's been a year, about a year since I started. It's really difficult. I mean, it's, you gotta be matched with the birth mom. I'm not doing foster to adopt. I'm just doing straight adoption. So in that case, you're waiting for a birth mom or birth parents to sort of pick you.
Yeah, right.
It's a lot like dating, and there's a lot of people vying for that, that baby. So it's really difficult. And I'm single, so it's not like a lot of single people adopt all the time. It's not what it used to be, but it still just takes a little bit longer. And so it's a process,
Yeah.
and
And I'm
but it could
excited
happen. It literally could happen. Like, I could get a call or an email from my lawyer today, and I could match with somebody immediately. And like, they could be giving birth. There was one scenario where she was going to give birth like in 4 days. So like that was her due date. They were inducing her in 4 days. So it was like, it can happen very, very quickly. But yeah, you just have to just keep an open mind and keep plugging along until that happens. And I mean, it would be perfect right now because we're, I'm still, partly working from home. I mean, I'm shooting the weather show at the studio, but we're still not back for Funny. And I think when we do come back for Funny, you should ask, we'll still be writing from home. We were writing from home up until June.
Okay.
So we'll probably continue to write from home and then just go in on shoot days for now. So this would be the perfect time to have a baby, but obviously
Right.
my baby's not ready to come to me
And when it happens, I'm going to be so excited for you because I know
yet.
that's going to be something that's going to get your heart pumping, But Jodi, thank you so much for being on the show. I do appreciate
It's so
you.
great. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And what else you want to plug? I mean, we
I
talked
just
about
want to
everything.
everybody. I mean, I'm Jodi Miller comic all across the board. JodiMillerComic. Just follow me and listen to my podcast, and keep laughing, because that's definitely something that's going to help you get through all of this bullshit. Just
Absolutely.
laughing.
Well, Jodi, thank you again. Appreciate you. Good luck. Be safe. And we'll talk soon. Everybody,
Yes.
Thank you for listening to the show. It's a podcast all over all social media. I do appreciate all you guys listening to the show. We got a new one coming next week. And for everybody here, Look, It's a Podcast. Have a good one. Be safe.